Good evening. You made it. Have a seat. Wow. Full house. We have every choreographer that's going to be on our program tonight. I'm Devon Carney, Artistic Director for the company, and I want to welcome you to the Belger Footnotes Series, which is a chance to hear a little bit about what you're going to see tonight, maybe more than what's in the program. We have a tremendous amount of individuals here tonight, which is really phenomenal. I'm so thrilled that there's so many creative voices in the room. And you are looking at what New Moves was created by. Every one of these individuals have had beautiful careers in dance and are also choreographers on the go. So I want to say thank you to each of you guys. I'll do one quick introduction through everybody so that then at least you know who they are. Emily Mistretta here. Cameron Thomas. I blank on names so bad. I knew I would blank on somebody. Don't do it. I'll come back to Haley Costas. I got it. Gabrielle Lorena. Natasha Otterly. Carolyn Dom over here. It just took me a minute. Woo, is it warm in here? Natasha Otterly, Morgan Sicklick, and no, I'm kidding, Parrish Maynard. And each of them come to Caroline, I love you. You're so nice. Each of these come to New Moves from a variety of different avenues. Some are actually residents here in Kansas City and work with Kansas City Ballet and are dancers with the company. And others live here and are creative artists here, as well as going out and creating works in different areas of the country. And well, then there's Parrish and I. I mean, we're here all the time. He's on our artistic staff, and as well as I guess I am too on artistic staff. I think I'm going to come over here and sit. So we have a kind of limited amount of time, and I thought maybe we could just get started by just going along and sharing a few minutes about your work and what the process has been like, and how it came to fruition that you decided on what you decided on. I bet that's going to take a lot of the time in and of itself. Not just you, I don't mean you as an individual, but as an entire group. Why don't you get started?
So my piece came together I'm a new mother. And so I kind of had that. I had that kind of in the back of my mind when I was doing the piece. But I wanted to play with the idea of being a version of myself too. And that, I think, really came through the piece. I don't even know if actually that was my intention, but the more I worked on it, the more that's what came through. And that's a lot of times how work goes for me. I don't really know exactly what the meaning is until it's all finally finished. It just all kind of like tumbles. And it was my first piece after about a year, so that was also trying to go back to something that I knew how to do, but bring different elements. Just play with knowing myself, but trying something new a little bit too.
I'm just going to ask a quick question. So what particularly would you say is something that you saw differently in your creative process after being now a mother and coming back, having stepped away from choreography for a year or so?
Yeah. I think I'm always pretty relaxed in the process. I mean, Cameron's worked with me all the time. It's always like frantic because it's usually very last minute that we have to do it, but somehow we have a good time, we live in flow. But I think that I was stressed about getting it done, but I was a little bit more relaxed, more like knew that it would happen, and it would come together. And I'd say that was a little bit different. Yeah.
Cool. So you kind of trusted yourself more, like, I've done this, I know how to do this, I'm good. And the stress of raising a child, that's an incredible high stress level. It's that kind of responsibility. So yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Emily. And Cameron, I mean, his shoe attire isn't what I think he normally wears.
Yeah, I'm not making a statement. It's underdressed. I'm in Emily's piece, and it's relatively early in the program, so I got ready. Suppose I could have gotten ready after, but I didn't. Anyway.
You look great.
My piece is two pieces of music by Maurice Ravel. It's a string quartet in F major, the second and fourth movement. And over the past few years, I've gotten to be quite close with our company pianist, Jordan Both. And sort of through him and through my own just curiosity, I've gotten to know a lot more about music history, and specifically music in the early 1900s, and sort of rediscovered, or more intimately discovered, like composers like Prokofiev and Alexander Scriabin and Maurice Ravel from that period. I think that music is so interesting and rich and lively and beautiful. And so a few years ago, I partnered with Jordan and made a piece on the second company that ended up being so classical, like very based in the classical language. And I really enjoyed that process a lot. It was a really challenging piece of music, and I was really drawn to this piece of music as well. So Devon approached me with the idea of a string quartet playing live, and this piece of music was really on my radar and fit the time frame for new moves, and so I decided to dive in. And I really loved working on it so much. I think the goal of the piece is not much more than to celebrate how beautiful the music is and how beautiful dance is in relation to it, and how virtuosic the dancers are. It really is like virtuosic music for the musicians, and really, really difficult and beautiful dancing for the dancers. And I think it's like just a celebration of music and dance, and not much more than that. But I was really happy with it and with the dancers, and excited for you to see it.
Cool. Thanks, Kim. Caroline Dom.
So Haley and I collaborated on a piece together. We've done pieces for Kansas City Ballet before, individually, and we thought it would be fun to do it together, which you don't see often. Two people, artists with very distinct voices, strong voices coming together. We think there would be a lot of head butting or anything, but it was literally the best process ever. We had such a good understanding of each other and what we both kind of do and what we want to say, and we're able to expand on our own voices as well. Just, being in the same room with one another, and everything came together so easily. The music, costuming, the theme, she could talk about that. And yeah, everything was just such an amazing process, and I enjoyed it and would totally do it again. So that's something, this could either make or break a friendship.
That's how you know.
Yeah, that's how you know. I think it brought us closer together. It really just helped us understand each other more as individuals, humans, artists, dancers, all that. Working so intimately. And dance and any art is such a raw form of being. And so really seeing each other stripped away in that process. Usually you don't get that as, the dancers don't even see that as a choreographer. But seeing on the other side of it, and us both having to just be vulnerable and be very upfront and communicating with each other, it was such a cool experience. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's funny because Devon had asked us when we said, hey, we want to do a collaboration, and he asked us, he's like, well, have you guys worked together before? And we're like, no. But we have in many other facets, so yeah, in many different realms we've worked together, and so we've already kind of had that relationship. But it became very interesting the first time we got in the studio. Caroline was like, I think since we don't know what we're doing, you do a move, I do a move. You do a move, I do a move. And we did it, we're like, that's cool, not our best work, but that was a good effort.
We didn't even use that.
No, we didn't even use it, but it was pretty good.
It was, yeah, we'll do it next time.
But it was really at first, back in November, a case study of how do we work together so that it's not two choreographers creating in tandem. And we really started to figure out Like, we had to do everything together. We had to listen to the music together. We had to like press pause and be like, this is what I see. What do you see? What does that look like? I would show an idea and Caroline would be like, I love that. And then she's like, what if we did it like this though? And then she would do the same. And so it really became a lesson in like communication, but with, you know, we do a nonverbal language here, so communication sometimes is not always our strongest suit. But I feel like that was a fascinating thing, even for the dancers, gave centerpiece. And sometimes I thought that we were talking to them, and we're like, no, we're figuring things out with ourselves. But the meaning of our piece, I feel, is it's very personal to us, and we try to approach it in a thoughtful way, but it's also a very relatable topic about how when you have conflict and it is unresolved, it sometimes is out of sight, out of mind, but it does have this way of kind of coming back to you, and even when you least expect it. And the idea is that we wanted to figure out how do we approach this personal but very relatable topic in a way that resonates with people, that doesn't just like get stuck on the conflict, but really to the resolve, and that you're trying to straddle the paradox of how do we accept difference? How do we work together even though we are not alike? And I feel like we even figured that out within our own process, and yeah, but our piece is called Circling Back. Or Circle Back, sorry. Circle Back.
It's fine. ING.
Hi, I choreographed keys on the second company this year. I had this idea a while ago, and at the beginning of the season, I had asked Devon and Christopher Rood, which is the director of the second company, that I wanted to create a bigger piece this season if I could use the second company. Usually, when I think of my movement and the way I like to choreograph, I refer to it as sign language. I'm very passionate about technique, but at the same time, I believe that there's so much movement that comes from translating a feeling or something that's inside me. And what I wanted to say, the meaning of my piece is, there's so much beauty in the technique and the body that we build as dancers, but at the end of the day, what makes all of that we do an art form is what's inside, and it's all that story that you have, you carry inside of you, your personality, where you come from, your identity, your inner voice. Sometimes there's an obsession with the technique that we can get lost and forget what it truly means, or sometimes even forget how to access who we truly are and let that technique come out with our identities. So I think that's the meaning of my piece. The name of my piece is Under My Skin. I also wanted to say that, today I'm an artist and I can dance and do all that technique, but my body is only going to be able to do that for a while. What happens after that when I can't do it anymore? And am I inspiring other people to search what they have inside, or just inspiring other people to seek for a technique thinking that's who they are? So that's what my piece is about. It was great working with the second company. It's my first time working with a big group of dancers. I think I'm very proud of myself. I think it looks very beautiful. The dancers were like diving into the process and the idea of the piece so well, and it made me very happy to see them diving into it and smiling and having so much fun. I think that to see what's under their skin coming out throughout the process, I think that was it for me. But thank you, Gabe.
Hi everyone. So my piece is called Como Rebe. It's very much inspired by nature, and specifically like the sensation of sunlight touching your skin. And often my work can be a little bit darker themed than this one is, but there is a part of that concept that still comes through, which is, I think we often think of like joyful things as maybe one-dimensional, but we know joy because we also know sorrow. And so that is absolutely a part of the concept of the piece and something that I played with. And when Devon asked me to come here, it's a very full circle moment for me because I grew up in Kansas City and I live in San Francisco now, but Kansas City was where I spent my formative years, and my background is very classically trained ballet, but my professional career was spent as a contemporary modern dancer. And after I stopped dancing for a company, I tapped back into street dance, which is a form that I grew up doing when I was younger, and then as I got more serious about dance, I let that go. So being a part of that community and seeing the way that that community operates has really shifted, I think, the ethos of how I approach process. Dance can be serious, but it also is about sharing and being joyful with each other. So in the first day of my process, I asked the dancers to do a lot of improv techniques that we do in street dance, like isolations, tracing, and they got to basically cipher with each other and watch each other. We stood in a circle and I made them witness what their peers are doing, because you learn so much from the people around you and being inspired by their greatness. So the piece is definitely a celebration. It's light. But it's definitely a fusion of the ballet vocabulary, which I have so much respect for, while still infusing myself in there as well.
Hi everyone, the name of my piece is called I Am Lost to All But This. It was inspired by a video I created during the pandemic for the dance company that I am currently dancing at, called Wonderbound in Denver, Colorado. And that initial video was a really big collaboration between poetry and music, and I kind of wanted to build on that, as well as the gestural movement vocabulary I created. The poem that's featured in my piece is called Fault Lines, and the poet's name is Ulf Obel. I had the pleasure of knowing him in college, and really got to understand his process as a poet and kind of what made him tick. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2019. I wasn't able to attend that memorial, so this was actually, the video was created in honor of him. And I thought it would be really lovely to create a bigger work, and just build on the work I had started in the video. It's also special for me to be back in Kansas City because I began my professional career here as a second company dancer, 2013 to 2015. So it's been an amazing experience to get to work with dancers I looked up to way back when, and be able to work with all of the new dancers that I didn't know previously, and have a super special experience. So it's been really wonderful.
Thanks.
Hello. The name of my piece is called Secret Places. Music is by Dmitry Shostakovich, second piano concerto. It's based on, everybody has a secret place in their heart that they'll go to, either if you're upset, happy, sad. It's a secret place that we all have. So basically, it's the journey of two couples finding their secret place. They find it, then they return from it. So it's just a journey to that special place that one goes to. The style of my movement this time, I went a little different this time. I'm calling it classical Killian, because I've worked a lot with Yuri Killian, and I'm very inspired by his movement, because as a dancer, it just feels good on your body. It doesn't hurt. It can hurt, but it doesn't work.
It can.
It just feels nice and rewarding and all of that. So anyways, that's kind of basically what it is. It's love, if it's a younger couple, a more mature couple, that's it.
Okay, I have a question for you. Parrish's work is the only work on the program that has a significant prop on stage. And I thought maybe when you, I don't know how much I want to give it away, but is there a significance to it, or is it just sculptural?
It's sculptural and it's a secret place.
I know.
See? You're going to a secret place.
Remember that.
But it's been a wonderful process being able to create our dancers that I train and coach and rehearse, and to be able to really pull something a little different out of them as artists, because it's like there's one, you're doing it one way, but I want it a little different, and just take everybody up to a different level, artistically. And that's what
One thing I did want to mention, which you will clearly notice when you see the show, and that is there is live music in the show, which is the most significant amount of musicians we've had in New Moves. It is a quartet that Cameron has the opportunity to work with, as well as Gabe, and as well as Natasha. And maybe you could talk about this process of, it's different. When we choose a recording, it's the same tempo. It's always going to be the same unless you choose to slow it down or speed it up. So, what's this process been like? You had your idea of what the music was going to be, and then here you are confronted with actual live musicians playing it. It's Opus 76, by the way, and they're becoming a very, very well-known, very quality group of musicians. I see. The thing was, I'll just tell you, is that they said they would do the show, and I said, "Oh, great! That's really awesome. This is amazing that we're going to get this chance to have this collaboration." And so then I started asking each of the choreographers if they were interested in having a quartet. And some had other ideas, and I respect that totally. But what I didn't realize was that 3 artists would say they wanted to use the quartet, which was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So, how did you go about choosing the music, and how do you feel it's turned out, this collaboration with live musicians of such wonderful quality?
Yeah, so Opus 76 are incredible. And Devon was like, do you want to use them? And I started listening to their catalog on Spotify, as one does, to try to get to know them a little bit more. And, I think for me, most of the music I've chosen for my other pieces is more electronic, or it has more rhythm to it. So I saw this opportunity as an opportunity to learn, because they are very experienced musicians who have had experience working with dance and actually being on stage with dancers. So they really understand what it takes to support dance. So I felt that felt like a safety for me to then challenge myself to try to work with music that I would not normally ever pick. So my piece is a Schubert piece called Death of a Maiden, and there's a bit of a backstory to it that they were talking to me about that I actually didn't know anything about, and my piece deals a little bit with life and death. So it was very kind of just magic sort of happened there. And then we rehearsed to a recording of them, and they came in, we played it the first time, and I was like, yeah, let's walk through it, we'll stop if anything goes wrong. It was perfect. So, it's just, it's such a pleasure to get to work with them.
Gabe, I want to ask you a 2-part question. First of all, what's it like to have live musicians, right? The second part, which I want to make sure everybody had a chance to share about their work, is this being your first large, epically large work. Did you approach choreographically? Did you approach the process any differently? Did you still just let your voice flow out? Or were you thinking, okay, how do I get everybody on stage and make them, fill the stage the way I want them to? So it's kind of a 2-part.
I usually just let my ideas and my voice out. And then when it gets to dress rehearsal or tech, I'm like, oh, now we're in the space, let's see what I did. I don't usually place, or I want to think about, even the space or being here, being there. Of course, with a lot of dances, I want to choose the whole space. But I don't remember being very specific about or worried about formations or where was that going to be or where was that going to go. I think when I choreograph, because I get very excited and I'm very passionate about it. This is just my opinion for me. I get very, very into it to the point that sometimes I spend until 3 a.m. just thinking about what I want and why I want it, what's the meaning, what's happening, and I can clearly see it in my mind. So it's easier to, once I get in the studio, I'm just like, so this is what I have in mind, blah, 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 and then it happens. And I'm like, oh, that looks just like what was in my head. It's actually my first time having live music with one of my pieces. So when I first talked to the musicians, they asked what music I wanted to use, and I've had Vivaldi's The Four Seasons in my head, recomposed by Max Richter, whatever, however it says it, for so long. But because of rights and all of that, we were just like brainstorming what we could do, and they were so excited and willing to recompose a version for me, so they got bits of Vivaldi's version and turned into my own version with a touch of what I liked from Max's version. So that was very, very special for me. But then for the last movement, I was like, I'm just gonna find the rights of that music because I love that music so much, so I'm gonna use that last one. But it made me very excited when the music came to life. They were like, let me work with it, and then we'll get back to you. When I first heard it, my mind was melting. I was like, you guys are phenomenal. So it sounds very cool what they did.
Thank you, Gabe. And Cam?
The live musicians. Well, so my piece is like very intimately connected with the music. As there are so many musical choreographers here, but it's like the dancing is essentially about the music because it's, as I said, like a celebration of my connection, my discovery of all of these composers who I have now come to really love and appreciate. And it's challenging music in that, I mean, there's only 4 players, but there are like a lot of overlapping voices, there's a lot of pizzicato, there's a lot of entrances that are staggered, it can be challenging to count, the second movement is in mixed meter. So all of these things are very deliberately choreographed to, and I hope that is reflected in your experience of it, and that the dancers reflect the music. But it also makes it very challenging by all the normal logistical difficulties of playing with live music. Just connecting movement and dance can be very difficult and challenging just from a logistics perspective, especially when we have, we've only been working together for a few days. But as Gabe said, as Natasha said, these musicians are not only like top tier musicians, but they're just amazingly intuitive and familiar with the language of dance. And they have been on stage with us in Cacti, which was one of the most fulfilling creative experiences I think I've ever had. And they're wonderful people. I mean, I've run into Keith like probably 10 times since Cacti out in the world somewhere. We did Evening with Ramona together a few weeks ago, which was really fun. And immediately, not only did we build on a personal rapport that we had, but I came in there with like a few ideas, and he was ahead of me already. And it was really amazing to watch him communicate that to the musicians, but more than that, just watch him so naturally like hear my idea, see what was going to happen, and then immediately execute, or even add in a few cases about like, well, I think this might be better if we breathed here, and then came in more clearly if Amanda could pick that up a little bit easier, or if it would be easier for the pas de deux or for the section with the 2 women to pull this particular note out a little bit. I can see you're like really doing something with that. That level of detail for a 12-minute piece on first hearing and seeing was pretty unbelievable for me. So I'm very grateful to work with them, and they are such an important part of the piece for me, and I'm happy.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm amazed that we're able to hear so much of their artistry in the program. I mean, obviously the incredible artistry amongst all these fantastic choreographers is what you're seeing, but what you hear as well is just so striking to have that opportunity to be able to hear such rich, very professionally done performed music is just such an incredible add-on to the show, which I don't know how we're going to top that next year. We'll have a symphony in here. No. But it's really been really wonderful to have them with us, and I'm really grateful for their presence and their willingness to be with us. And I want to say thank you to each of you guys, and I want to wish you all the best on your premieres. How exciting, isn't it? It's really, really exciting. Their dress rehearsal was just incredible. So many people came up to me. Our staff was able to watch last night, since it's practically a sold-out run already. And like, oh, what a beautiful show. Every work is so unique and different and interesting, and I love that about this. Every year is different. You never know what you're going to get. But what I do know with artists like this, that what you are going to get is a beautiful night of really amazing dance. So I wish you all the best. And don't be nervous. You can't do anything about it. Now it's up to the dancers. But thank you. And off we go into the evening. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming early. Appreciate it. Thank you.